I was able to completely change my life around from making $0 to now making hundreds of thousands of dollars from sports betting. During this entire journey, I found 7 key habits I wish I knew earlier. These 7 habits will save you from losing all of your money and wasting all of your time that you can never gain back. From the second that I started implementing these 7 habits, everything fucking changed. So pay attention and be sure to watch the entire video. The first habit that I really started doing that changed my entire life was bankroll management. Your average bettor is not going to manage shit, and then this leads them to end up losing it all, even if they have good weeks or good months. Because if you're not managing your bankroll, then it's all going to disappear on that 1 or 2 red week. Because no matter how much you win or bring in, it doesn't matter if you're not managing your bankroll and you end up losing it all. Now, what does managing your bankroll mean? This basically just means being smart with the money that you have in your account. Your bankroll is just a term which is just including everything that you have in your account, and this includes all your accounts. So if you have a total bankroll of like $1,000, you shouldn't be exceeding 20% of your entire bankroll on a given day when you're gambling. This is especially important because you will run into those red days or even red weeks, and you do not want to lose your entire balance on a single day. This also depends on your current situation, but for the most part, I typically tell people to stay within 20% of their bankroll. If you have a red day and you have half of your bankroll on a single day, or fuck it, even your entire bankroll, if you lose that day, you are now constantly depositing, getting more stress, and it also fucks with your mental. But if you're managing your bankroll and you have those red days, it doesn't really matter, because let's say you lost 10% of your bankroll or 15%. It's a very small portion compared to the entire amount. I want you guys to ask yourself, are you guys conscious of how much you are betting every single day? Now, I don't mean just per slip, because you could bet $10 a slip, but you can throw 20 slips, and that could be your entire bankroll. Now, managing your bankroll will come in hand with the next tips I got. The second habit that you have to start implementing is running units. And now this may be a new concept to you, so really listen closely. Units are just a designated term for how much you bet per slip. I will also talk about how many slips you should be posting later on, but I typically run 1 to 5% of your entire bankroll per slip. I say 1 to 5% because I like to give a range for people in different situations. Me personally, I have a big bankroll, so I run smaller units to keep it safer. Other people might have like $100 in the bankroll and they don't really give a fuck, so they might run 5 or 10% units. I don't suggest going over 5% at all, but like I said, everyone's situation is different. You just have to determine that for yourself. But as long as you're within that 1 to 5% range, I say you're good. Me personally, I run $1,500 slips, as you guys can see, and some people may think that this is fucking crazy, but it's literally less than 1% of my entire bankroll. And so let's say why this system works perfectly, and it goes along with managing your bankroll. If you run units and you're managing your bankroll, you're keeping an eye on stuff. If you lose 6 slips in a row, that's 6% of your entire bankroll. You don't really care as much. But let's say you go 1 out of 6. Then you're only down 3 units, which still really isn't shit. And that's 1 out of 6. That's a bad day. Let's say you go 2 out of 6 on slips, and that's still a bad day, right? You guys hear that? Oh, you play 6 slips, you only won 2. That fucking sucks. But you broke even. That's pretty solid, especially if it was a bad day. There's a lot of blowout games. So this system keeps you in the game. And then once you do have those green days, even if you hit half your slips, you're up a few units, which is very, very solid. Managing your units and managing your bankroll will save you from so much stress and so much headache. Trust me, I've been there in all these different situations. The only times I get super stressed is if I'm not managing my units. Us degenerates like the term nuke, and that means just throwing a shit ton on one slip. I want you to think back to how you felt when you lost that nuke. It doesn't feel really good. So what if you run units and you keep it consistent and you spread your odds among a bunch of different slips, then you will feel a lot better, especially if you're breaking even on a shit day or you're profiting on a solid day. It doesn't really matter. Both scenarios, you don't really give a fuck, because over the long run, if you have good solid plays, you should be fine. Now, this only works if you're smart with your slips. Do not run more than 6 slips. I think the sweet spot for slips is around 4 to 6 slips total, running strictly 2-mans. And now I say strictly 2-mans because they're the best odds and they're the safest that you can possibly get. I want you guys to think back to what all these prize picks, sleeper, what did they promote? These 100x payouts, these super high payouts. If the platform wants you to run these high risky plays, why do you believe that you should be doing that? It's just going to make it way harder for you to profit and it's going to make them a lot more money. And now some people might see the payout and see, oh, that's so low. You only believe that that is low because of what you're comparing it to. If you see motherfuckers on the internet take $10 to 10 million, that's probably not real, by the way, then you're gonna believe that a 3x isn't that good, when trust me, even a 2x, 2.5, or a 3x is fucking good. Even 2-mans can sometimes be hard as fuck to hit. For example, let's say you have 3 slips. That's 6 props total split among 3 2-mans. You have to hit 2 in a row to catch that slip. If you hit 50% of props, which is generally good, you know, you made 6 bets, half of them hit, that generally is good. But you can still go 0 for 3 on slips if you paired wrong. This is where even 2-mans, when they sound super safe, can still be risky, and this is where gambling comes in. You have to hit 2 props in a row to make that slip green. One day, if PrizePicks or any of these platforms do straight bets, which is just 1 prop, I'm going to become a fucking billionaire. So just keep in mind, even though 2-mans are a low payout, blah blah blah, just understand that that's because it's safer. You'd rather get a 2x or a 3x compared to a 0x. Like, how many times do I gotta tell people this? Come on. Now, my 4th habit is exactly what I said earlier. Don't run more than 6 slips. This is because you're dramatically lowering the odds of actually profiting without even realizing it. For example, as I said earlier, I think the sweet spot is 4 to 6 slips. That's because if you throw 6 slips on a day, even then that's kind of a lot. If you hit 2, you break even. If you hit 3, you're up 2 units. 2 units is really good, but it's nothing crazy. So you're kind of banking on like hitting 50% up of slips, which like generally on a day-to-day basis is kind of hard to do. But let's say you throw 4 slips, you hit 2, that's 2 units of profit, and then anything more is profit, and anything more is really good. But if you're running 8, 9, 10 slips, you have to hit so many props in order to profit. Let's say you run 10 slips, and a lot of you guys do this. Just think back of how many slips you guys be placing on a day-to-day basis. It's just making everything worse. It's making your odds of winning a lot lower, especially if you're running 1 prop on multiple slips. So getting back to the 10 slips, if you're running 10 slips, you're running 20 props on that day. On a single day, you're betting on 20 players to hit. Plus, if you're locking in 10 slips, you need at least 3 to hit. And even if you hit 3 slips, you're not breaking even, you're slightly under. So that's, you're banking on hitting 6 props in a row on 2-mans, because you can't just hit half of your props. You have to hit them back to back on the same slip. So you're kind of banking on having a super lucky day, if that makes sense, which generally you shouldn't do that with gambling. You should expect realistic outcomes. That's what I always do when I gamble. That's why I stick to 4 to 6. Let's say I have 6 slips on the day. If I hit 1, okay, I'm slightly down. If I hit 2, that's solid. I broke even, got more money for the next day. If I hit 3, and so on, you guys understand. But if I had 10 slips going on, and like even if I hit half of all my props, I had to get lucky enough for all the props to be in a row. Man, I can't even tell you guys how many times I've ran a bunch of slips, props looked fucking guaranteed, but we went 1 out of 2 on all of them, because this is just gambling. Like, gambling is fucking dumb as shit sometimes. You guys had to be prepared for the worst. For my 5th tip is probably the most important, because you can do all this stuff, you can be so disciplined, you could be so smart, but if your plays aren't good, then it really doesn't matter. Now, I want you guys to see the stats that we post for our plays. As you guys can see, we go super in depth into these plays. We don't just look at what's on layer 1. We look at layer 10. We look at the matchup. We look at how the matchup does against that player, how the matchup does against that player's position, the past teams in that position, how they've done against that team. Are they at home? Are they away game? How the fuck is the weather? Injury reports, a bunch of different things. A lot of people just go on TikTok, go on Twitter, and just throw a bunch of their hard-earned money on these slips. You guys don't even know where the fuck these cappers pulled these slips out of their ass from. You guys have to get slips from trustable people and people who actually know the fucking sport. Because here's what a lot of these other cappers do. If they're losing, they're going to force plays. They're going to just throw out plays that they're praying to God that hits, so that they can bring in money and bring in whatever. They're not putting hours into these plays, and I really recommend that you guys do a lot of research into these plays, because you guys want to make sure that you're putting your hard-earned money on the right shit. It really does not make sense to me how some people are so desperate to win, but they throw it on the lowest odds and chances of success, which is random ass plays from random people that they don't know. I see it all the time in my free chat. People are always like, oh, someone give me plays, I'm down to my last $100. I'm like, if you're down to your last $100, fucking take care of that money. Fucking make sure that it goes into the right spot. And so that's literally why I created my group. My research team drops plays just like this. We hit all the fucking time. If you guys want very solid plays to follow, click the link in my description. That's where I post all my plays. I even drop free plays in my free Discord, or you could join premium to get all my plays every day. But But anyways, I'm just trying to make sure that you guys invest in good quality picks, because a lot of people will just bet on players that they know or players that they recognize, but you guys don't know how they do against that matchup. You guys just look at the last 5 on Prize Picks. Like, why do you think they're so open to showing you the last 5? Because it doesn't really fucking matter sometimes. There's a lot of more factors that goes into this gambling shit that people just don't understand, but we understand, so we'll take care of you. Anyways, my 6th habit is also very, very important, and this is your mentality while you're gambling, including your emotions and how you handle them when you're gambling. Emotional gambling is the worst fucking thing that you can do. Me and my team, we pride ourselves into looking at stats, facts, and research. We do not care if we dislike that player. We don't care if we really like that player. All it is down to facts, numbers, and statistics. If you guys are getting emotional when you're gambling, you're doing exactly what these platforms want you to do. You're sitting in the palm of their hand. Let me ask you guys, why do you think the house always wins? Because 1, we're gambling on human creatures who will make mistakes in the game, and 2, you guys are human creatures as well with a lot of emotions and greed, and it's very hard to detach yourself from that greed in order to see the most success. But that's why I need you guys to listen to me. If you're losing, do not go out of control and bet more and try to win that back and be greedy. And if you're winning, calm down and don't get overconfident and double up and nuke and fucking lose it all back. Because like I keep saying, this is exactly what they want you to do. Just think to yourself, if you were these platforms, how would you want these people to act in order for you to make the most money? You guys are all doing it every single fucking day. But it's understandable because this is gambling and a lot of y'all got gambling addictions. Shit, I do too. But the one key difference between you and me is I can control my emotions and my decisions when I'm gambling. If you guys are in my group, you'll notice that even though we lose, we do not force bets. We don't push out more and more bets or tell people to double up. Because if you're already losing, you're already on kind of a bad streak. So you actually have to be more careful rather than be dumb as shit and start nuking and going crazy. The average person just sees worse results when they do this. So just do the complete opposite. Stop justifying shit and stop having a feeling of, oh, I'll feel it tomorrow. Blah, blah. Your feelings don't fucking matter. It's stats and numbers. And you also have to remember you're betting on human beings. And at the end of the day, it's gambling. More likely you're gonna lose than win. So you have to control yourself when you do lose and when you do win. And that goes on to my next habit. My 7th and most important habit, and I would say is incredibly looked down upon, is securing profits. You could win $1 million. I have been up over 100 G's, but it doesn't matter until you secure those profits. If you don't secure those profits, then guess what? Eventually, it's gonna go back to these platforms. I'm not sure why this isn't talked about more within the gambling community, but it really doesn't matter if you win $10,000 in a week, $10,000 every fucking day, if you don't secure profits and withdraw, because eventually, you know, human nature, we're very greedy. We see that we can win 10K, so we're like, oh, we could win another and another and another, and you're not gonna stop until you lose it all. That's the only time we fucking stop. So your key is to not stop, but at least withdraw your profits. If you're withdrawing profits, you're ahead of 99% of other gamblers because they never do. That's also why in my group, I always send out alerts to withdraw profits on green days. Every 1 slip you hit, you get triple the money. So if you're hitting half of your slips every day, you're making a lot of fucking consistent money. So you need to withdraw that, because eventually the red days will come, the red weeks will come. You manage your bankroll throughout those red days and you'll be fine. And you had all those profits that you already secured, so you're not going to continue to deposit. So it's like you have the whole fucking system at the palm of your hands. You just have to make sure you ride out the red days and take every single advantage that you can during these green days. Manage your units. You're going to get solid ass units. Withdraw those units so that you are not losing it back to them when the red day does come and the green days end. A very common trait among gamblers is that when they're green, they believe that the next day will be green as well, and then the next, and then the next. But the reality is that every day is its own probability. Just because you were red for 7 days straight doesn't mean the 8th day you're due. You could be red for a year straight, because that's how odds work. Imagine you're flipping a coin. Just because you landed on heads 10 days in a row does not mean that the 11th day you're gonna hit tails. Obviously, the law of average, you're gonna average it out the more you do it, but within a short time frame, you guys gotta stop thinking that you're due. I more like think that you're due for a red day rather than the vice versa, because if you're greening, the best thing that you could possibly do is get rid of that ego and that overconfidence, because that shit blinds you. It blinds you into thinking that you're invincible and that you will never lose again, and you guys gotta get rid of that. Anyways, those are my 7 key habits that I hope help you guys and change your fucking betting careers, to be honest. If you guys want to join my community, click the link down below. Join Premium, I'm in there. I post all my plays in there. Subscribe for more, I'll be posting weekly content. And I'll catch you degenerates next time.